And look at this, we're almost there. We've actually reached the point of configuring our AWS server, and we're at the point now where we can finally install WordPress. And we're actually going to do this via the command line. We're going to download the package that way. We can configure an FTP client and do it manually that way, but it's actually a little bit faster this way. And we will set up the FTP client a little bit later, but for now, we're just going to do this via the command line. So we're back to our Linux server here. When we download WordPress, we want to make sure that we're in the right directory first. So I'm going to change directory to where we want to install this, which is inside my darkpixels.tech. And now I'm going to download the WordPress zip file. So I'm going to use sudo wget http and wordpress.org/latest.tar.gz. So this is going to get the latest version of WordPress for me, and it's going to download pretty fast. Next, we need to extract that zip file. Sudo tar xf. Now, if I have a look here, you'll now see I've got a WordPress folder. I'm going to change that name. I usually like to put it in a folder called site. So I'm going to do that by typing sudo mv WordPress, and I'm going to change it to site. There we go. Now, if we have a look, you'll see that that name is now site. Now, one problem, if I have a look at the ownership, you will actually see that that folder has got no ownership. And if I change directory inside that folder, cd/ops, and let's actually look at the details. So you'll see there's no ownership of those files. So that's going to cause us issues. So let's actually now change the folder permissions for that whole folder. So I'm just going to change directory, go up one level. So I actually want to change the permissions of the whole directory and everything inside of it. So I'm going to type sudo, and the R is recursively. I'm going to give the permissions to Apache, which is the Apache server, and data www. Okay, so let's have another look now. So Apache owns that. I'm going to change directory into the site folder. All right, there we can see Apache now owns all of those files. Now, I also want to check if there's a htaccess file already here, because if not, I may need to create one. I will actually need to create a .htaccess file to redirect my site to the site folder, because I've put it in a separate folder. I like to do it this way because it means if I have another application that I'm running from that website for some reason, I can put that into another folder and it doesn't mess up my WordPress installation. But I do need to do that little bit extra configuration for it. So let's actually just have a look at the root and see what we've got in here. I don't think I've got an htaccess file. So I have no htaccess file here, so I'm going to create one. So I'm going to go sudo nano and htaccess. So just typing the name .htaccess will create the file for me. And all I need to put in here, and I'm actually going to copy and paste this. All right, so I've got rewrite engine on, rewrite rule, and you'll see here that the whole site's going to redirect to the folder site. So let's save that. All right, so now if we do ls-a, we should be able to see that new htaccess file now. So once again, I need to actually change the ownership of that file so that Apache can use it. Now you'll see when I go to my website, I have my WordPress set up. So I'm going to click continue here. The database name was the name I configured in MySQL Workbench, and that was db-darkpixels. So I'm going to enter that in here now. So db-darkpixels. My username, that was db-user-darkpixels. db-user-darkpixels. Really, just make sure when you do this, design a really good consistent naming convention, okay? And I'm just going to pop in my non-secure password that I've temporarily done. Remember, I'm deleting this afterwards. So my database host, so that was the URL that we picked up here, the endpoint in Lightsail. So I'm going to copy and paste that, pop that into my host, and I'm going to leave the table prefix as it is, because it's always handy to have a WP prefix on the table names just in case you accidentally install another application to the same database. I always try and segregate it, but you never know what might happen. And I'm going to click submit. So that's so far so good. Let's click run the installation. So I'm going to have to put some info in here. So dark pixel. Now I'm creating a WordPress username now. So I always like to create something other than the word admin. So because admin's easier to be hacked because I've got half the equation. If you make the username something other than admin, people have to work harder. So I'm going to call it dark pixel admin, and I need to put in an email address, and I'm going to install WordPress. Now, how good is that? I can now log in and configure this WordPress site. And if I actually go to the site now without logging in, so I'm just going to go enter the domain name in, and look at that. I've got my sample page configured.